All right, we're back. Boom. Facebook and IG. So let me speed this up. All right, so it is Friday, January 25th, and it is cold here in South Florida. My phone says that it's 62 degrees. Everyone today is going to be in a sweater like this, pretty much saying the same thing, that it's cold. And while it is, you got to ask yourself, cold compared to what? If you're up north, and it's like summertime here, it is certainly not as cold as it is up north. And that leads me to what I want to talk about today. Today, for some reason, I think everyone got together, and I have had the same question asked several times today in a variety of different forms. And I love that question. So sometimes when people ask it, they might think that they're bothering me or whatever. And number one, don't ever think that you are. You are never bothering me. You are never asking too many questions. I'd love to answer questions. It's the reason why I do what I do, and it's the reason why I'm always learning and reading and studying and all that stuff. So don't ever feel bad that you are asking too many questions. But today's question is a combination of a few things. It's a combination of why am I not seeing results quickly, or how much should I have lost, or I followed my plan and I didn't get X, Y, or Z result, right? So let's cover all of those with one answer, because that's really what it's going to come down to. One answer. So the answer to all of those questions, how much should I have lost, what results should I have gotten, or I followed my meal plan, I did my workout or whatever the case might be, and I didn't see the result that I thought or expected, is the same question that I asked regarding the weather. Compared to what? What is it that you're comparing the result that you wanted to see or thought you should have seen to? So for example, if you started the week out with an eating program or an eating plan or map or whatever you want to call what it is that you're doing, and exercise prescription or program or plan or map, and you followed it to the T, lost Facebook, there it is, followed it to the T, you followed all the instructions, and the outcome at the end of the week was whatever, right? Maybe you lost a pound, maybe you gained a pound, maybe you stayed the same, right? If the question is, why didn't I see result? Then I would say, well, what are you comparing that to? Or what kind of result that you expect to see? And when I ask that, what I'm really trying to do is get the person asking the question to think about the outcome that they expected versus the outcome that could possibly happen based on a multitude of different things, right? So a lot of times people think or feel that weight loss should happen in a linear way, right? You start a meal program, you start a new diet, you start exercising, and you lose. You lose, right? And then the one day that nothing happens, what happened? I didn't lose a half pound, I didn't lose a pound. What happened? It must not be working, I have to change it right away. And that's typically not the case, right? So whenever you're weighing yourself, if you're using that as how you're determining whether or not something is working, there's four things that number on the scale represents, right? So you got muscle, water, bones, and fat. All four things together represent your weight. The bone structure isn't really going to change, right? You're not going to lose any bones. But your water intake and how fluidly you can eliminate that water will dictate how much you weigh. So let's say you drank one of those regular, if I had one I'd show you, but let's say you drank a bottle of water, right? That one bottle of water weighs 1 pound. If you drank 6 of those, that's 6 pounds of water. If you drank 6 pounds of water Monday through Friday, that's 30 pounds of water. Doesn't mean you gain weight. Doesn't mean anything. It just means you consume 30 pounds of water. How fast is that water coming out? Now, what about your food? How much food are you eating? all of that food has volume, right? I'm not even going to talk about calories or anything. The food has volume. So if you have 4 ounces of fish, 4 ounces of chicken, and 6 ounces of beans or whatever, all that volume starts to accumulate. So if the only way you're determining whether or not your program is working is by the number on the scale in the morning, then unfortunately you're not going to be able to maximize your program. Why? Because too many things influence that number. You could have eaten, like let's put it like this. Let's say you did everything exact. You ate at the same exact time, the same exact meal every single day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday, you got stuck in a meeting and you ate the same thing you were supposed to eat, but you ate it an hour later. That's going to create a change. How big of a change? I don't know. Depends on you. Your body's different than mine and everybody else's. So that's going to create a change. Let's say because you ate that meal a little bit later, you also drank water a little bit later. That's also going to create a change. That 1 hour or 2 hour difference in how you ate your food is going to create a change, which is also going to reflect your weight in the morning. That doesn't mean anything. Your weight goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. That is not the determining factor on whether or not a program is working or not working, okay? How long should you stay on a program before you figure out whether or not it's working? Well, if you know me, you know the answer is the right answer, which is it depends. It depends on so many things. It depends on how consistent you're being. It depends on how much time you've dedicated to that program. It depends on what kind of program you followed before. It depends on your diet history. How many different programs have you followed? It depends on where your body was when you started that program. It depends on where your body is today. There are so many factors that influence how long you should be on a program. But a lot of times we're just used to things happening rather quick, right? And for some people, quick is a lot of different things, right? So quick could be I lost a pound this week. Quick could be I lost 5 pounds this week. Quick is not necessarily fact. Quick just means I thought that this is what should have happened, and if it didn't happen to me, that means it didn't work. Unfortunately, that's not really based on much, right? So quick doesn't translate into that's what should happen. The other thing is perception. I've always read, I've always heard, I've always thought that this is the way it should go. How long you've always read or heard or thought that that's the way that it should go is the length of time that it is ingrained in your brain. That means that you believe that, and until you see or hear something different that compels you enough to change your mind, that's really what you're going to believe, right? It doesn't matter the evidence or the science or the math or whatever the case is. As long as you believe that it should happen that way, that's really what you're going to believe. So, I ask you, or I ask my clients, a bunch of questions when they start to feel like whatever progress they thought should have happened hasn't happened yet. The first question is always, well, what do you think was going to happen? You know, what did you expect? Because in order for me to answer whether or not it's working, I have to know what you thought was going to happen. And this is not a half cup full or half empty type of question. It's, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think you were going to lose a pound? Did you think you were going to lose 5? Did you think you were going to lose 3? What did you expect to happen? And the reason that I ask that is, I want to know what you're thinking, right? And then I'm going to ask you, what are you basing that on? What made you get to the conclusion that that's the way that should have played out, right? And then I'm going to ask you, well, let's look at your plan. Let's look to see if the things that you're doing match the things that you want. Because we got 2 screens. Anyway, so let's see if the things that you're doing match the things that you want. Are you eating the things that we talked about exactly the way that we talked about them? Or is there some variety? Are you training exactly the way that we talked about training? Or is there some variety? Okay? All of those things will influence how we can calculate the result that we're expecting. When there is too much variety, right, It's like, oh, I know that you said I should do this, but I did that. Or I know that you said we should do this, but I did that. When that happens too often, it's very difficult to predict what the outcome is going to be. And when it's difficult to predict what the outcome is going to be on my side, it's going to be difficult to predict what the outcome is going to be on your side. So when you are asking, is this working? How fast should it be working? Or I don't think that it's working, or whatever the case might be, you got to ask yourself, what are you comparing that to? Are you comparing it to something that you've done in the past? Are you comparing it to something you heard? Are you comparing it to something you thought? And then, is there enough information with that question? Is there enough information with that question to say, yeah, that's kind of the way it should go? With all of that said, for the benefit of anyone watching, your body, right, this vessel, the tissue that we hold that carries us, is built to adapt. It's built to survive. It's built to sustain you continuing to exist in this world, in this planet, in this realm, in this whatever you want to call whatever this is. And 1 week of changes, 2 weeks of changes, 3 weeks of changes will not undo a lifetime of doing things a certain way. It's just not going to happen because that math doesn't add up, right? But the most important part, or at least the part that I want you to get from this with the 2 minutes that I have left, is you need to be consistent and compliant with whatever program you're following for a long enough period of time to let you know what changes need to be made before you change them. What's a long period of time, or long enough? It depends. It depends on so many things. So the truth is that if you don't really understand why you're doing what you're doing, then all you're missing is a better explanation. If you are watching this and you happen to be one of my people and you're really not sure why you're doing what you're doing, let me explain it to you a little bit better. If you are not one of my clients and you are not sure what you're doing or why you're doing it, ask your coach to explain it a little bit better. Because the better of an understanding that you have as to why you're doing what you're doing and what should happen over the long term, not from day to day, not from week to week, over the long term, the more likely you are to be consistent and compliant day in and day out, no matter what. Because that is where you're going to find the results. The results are going to be in the process, not at the end, okay? Sticking to your plan day in, day out, consistently is where you will find the results. And the results will come a little bit at a time. An ounce here, an ounce there, a half pound here, a half pound there. 12 weeks later, 16 weeks later, 20 weeks later, add up to a lot. But if you're looking to undo years of doing things probably that didn't serve you or serve the purpose or serve your goal in just a few days or just a few weeks, unfortunately it's just not going to help you. So you've got to put in perspective that whatever it is that you're doing, if you're not sure, then the best thing to do is to make sure that you understand it in a way that helps you be compliant and consistent with the plan that you're following so that you are more likely to do it. And then you can say, well, I did this way, this should be the outcome, or this is what I wanted. But if you're not sure what the outcome should be, or you're basing what you think the outcome should be on a bunch of ideas that you've just acquired over time and they're not really based on much other than opinions and feelings. I feel I should have done this, or I think they should have gone this way. Unfortunately, just isn't facts, and it doesn't compute. So this is the end of my walk, and I hope that the one thing that you got from this is that number one, just like today's weather is cold, here in South Florida. Cold compared to what, right? Just like some people lose weight faster than others, some people get results faster than others, you're really just having to ask yourself, if the goal, if the progress that you're expecting to happen hasn't happened, what are you comparing it to? If you're comparing it to another person or somebody else for a different plan or a different program, you know, you've got to put everything in perspective. And do you have an understanding to why you're doing what you're doing, how it's supposed to work, and so on and so forth. All right? Friday, January 25th. Peace out. If you're coming to class later, 5 and 6. Saturday, 8 and 9. 11 on Sunday. Peace.